Hi folks, right, welcome to part 2 of my 101 best novels list. Once again we're talking about books on this list, which is the Broderick and De Filipo 101 best novels list covering the period 1985 to 2010. When I first did the video 6 months or so ago, I had about 35, something like that, of the books on this list, and I've been acquiring them with vigour since then. And I now have nearly all of them. I think I'm missing about 5 now, and 2 or 3 of those are on their way slowly to me right now. But so we'll go through these as fast as I can sensibly do so, just to show them off a bit, and see if any of them pique your interest. Like I did the first time around, I will put the whole list in the description for the video if you're interested. But in the order that they appear in the list, first one is from 1985, Ursula Le Guin's Always Coming Home. Apparently a major work of imagination. Rich and complex interweaving of story and fable, poem, artwork and music. It totally immerses the reader in the culture of the Kesh, a peaceful people of the far future who inhabit a place called the Valley on the northern Pacific coast. So it's like a dying earth type thing from the sound of it, or at least far future thing. I haven't read that much Ursula Le Guin, way less than I ought to have, but what I have read of hers I've really enjoyed, so I don't know if this is measures up in comparison to those, but there it is, it's on the list. Next is James Morrow's This Is the Way the World Ends, which is a Gold-length yellow jacket, as you can see, by James Morrow. And this is an ex-library book, so it's a little bit kind of untidy on the inside, honestly. But it is signed, rather unusually for a library book. And this is a sort of, I don't know, satirical / kind of amusing. So George Paxton, he wants to get an anti-radiation suit for his daughter. We're in deep fear of nuclear conflict, as kind of many people were in the mid-80s. And so in the process of trying to get this suit, he has to fill out a form. Then there is the war that everyone fears. And for some reason that isn't completely clear to me because I haven't read it, the fact that he signed this form somehow makes George liable for all of the damage and death and destruction. Somehow he signed away his life and responsibility for all of this stuff happening. Yes, the document that George so innocently signs means that he stands accused in the name of all the people who stood by and never raised a finger to stave off nuclear war. Next, from 1986, is Pat Murphy's The Falling Woman, which is a sort of more fantasy, I think, than science fiction. It's set in the ruins of an ancient Mayan city. Archaeologist Elizabeth Butler confronts the shade of a long-dead priestess and enters the twilight world of Mayan magic and Mayan blood sacrifice. So not really SF, but okay. Then we've got Pamela Sargent's The Shore of Women from the same year, 1986. I hear is really good. So although on the back here, this is not entirely my cup of tea. A love story with the magnetic appeal of the Mists of Avalon and Clan of the Cave Bear, in which the forbidden love of a man and a woman heralds the beginning of a new world. So this Shore of Women. Blah, 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 blah. Centuries after the nuclear holocaust, women rule the world, but they rule alone. Men are banished to a primitive life of war and scavenging in the wilderness outside the women's golden cities. Love between the sexes is unknown. No comment. Only in the shrines outside the cities can men see the image of a woman, and in waves of ecstasy they worship this strange creature as a goddess. Sounds a bit like my house. And so on and so forth. So it's like a men are from Mars, women are from Venus type thing, but in a post-apocalyptic world where the women are on top, as it very much were. Then from 1987 we got Lucius Shephard's Life During Wartime, which I gather is an important book. Obviously Broderick and De Filipo believe so, but I think it's quite widely held to be true. And you got Mingola here. David Mingola is just an average soldier trying to survive the madness of a Central American war, but it seems that he's destined for greater than average things. He meets and falls in love with the beautiful Deborah in Guatemala, woman of his dreams, or is she? He ends up getting recruited into some kind of Psi Corps unit of the US Army. And here's a book that I'm super keen to read, actually. 1989, Rosemary Kirsten's The Steerswoman. It's actually the first. There's several in this series, and this is an omnibus. It has the first 2 in it, I think. And so we're set in so I think it's sort of far future. Yeah, sorry, here we go. The 2 classic novels in one volume, The Steerswoman and The Outskirter's Secret. And apparently this is a really lovely book. And it's sort of far future, maybe a little bit of magic. Yeah, when the steerswoman Rowan discovers a lovely blue jewel of obvious magical origin, her innocent questions lead to secret after startling secret, each more dangerous than the last, and suddenly Rowan must flee or fight for her life, or worst, she must lie. And they can't lie, they've got to tell the truth. That's the thing about the steerswoman. Anyway, meant to be very good. This will be a common theme here. Yet another book that I really want to read is Grass by Sherry S. Tepper, and this is about a sort of authoritarian galactic empire of sorts, which is currently suffering from some form of plague, which is wiping out people. And there's one planet, Grass, which, as the name suggests, is covered with plains of something like grass. It isn't grass, but like grass. Is the only planet that seems to be exempt from this plague. Yeah, where we go. An incurable plague is spread to all inhabited planets but one. No one knows why the prairie world of Grass is exempt. The imperial power on Earth, a Mormon-like religion called the Sanctity, dispatches a family to snoop around. They're horsey types, the rulers of Grass that are understood to hunt, and so they do, but not for foxes, and not on horseback. The true nature of things, the hunters, the hunted, and the fields over which they fly, resists unravelling, but slowly, horribly, deliciously, the truth falls out. I'm surrounded here by tottering piles of books. So let's see what's next. Yeah, from 1991, Lois McMaster Bujold's Barrayar, which I think I'm right in saying is the second of the Vorkosigan saga books. So we're still with Cordelia and what's his name, Daddy Vor. They've just got married at the end of the previous book, so it kind of continues that story. And I gather this is a better book than the first one, which I did enjoy, but I thought was a little bit lovey-dovey and soft focus for my liking. But this story really picks up when Miles Vorkosigan appears, which I think is from the third book, maybe Warrior's Apprentice, is it? But allegedly a good book, and the series does improve and gets apparently excellent as it progresses. So I'm keen to read that as well. And then we've got from 1991, Karen Joy Fowler's Sarah Canary. And as a rule, I'm trying to... I've erred on the side of trying to find the first edition hardbacks of these books to add to some sort of collecting funds and everything. And in some cases, that's been straightforward. In other cases, it's just really hard to get hold of, and I've settled for a paperback. And in some cases, there just weren't hardback editions. But of this one, there was. And this one, I think I'm right in saying, is, into the sort of Old West in the 1870s. A white woman of indeterminate age and great ugliness materialises in a Chinese railway workers' camp, babbling incomprehensibly. And one of the Chinese labourers is instructed to escort her back to the white world and the local lunatic asylum where surely she belongs. And travelling into that hostile world, Chin and the women acquire a ragtag entourage. And nobody really knows who she is or where she's come from, or why she communicates the way that she does. You know, is she just simple, or is she an alien? Anyway, interweaving historical fact and fiction, Fowler spins an enthralling tale of a bizarre quest which exposes the madness of the sane and the ferocity of the civilized and the sad vulnerability of the dispossessed. Magical, comic, haunting and deeply thought-provoking, Sarah Canary introduces apparently a major new voice. Sometimes there are books that I'm covering here that I might possibly have covered the last time round. My record keeping is a bit sketchy, but just in case I didn't cover this last time, it's White Queen by Gwyneth Jones. It's actually on my TBR pile for this month. I haven't quite got to it yet, and I've got about a week and a half of March left, so I need to get my skates on. In fact, a week left of March, so I really need to get down and knuckle down and read it. I can't get at it because it's all taped up in this little bag here, but there it is. Next, from 1992, is Dead Girls by Richard Calder, which is a kind of nano-engineering thing, I think. So is Primavera a self-replicating cyborg, bloodsucker, or a poor little dead girl? Ask Ignatz Swag when he stops bleeding. 40 years ago, Cartier Paris cooked a virus that bridged the wetware-software divide. It was sent east to infect the fake Cartier dolls being made there, and the dolls, in turn, would infect their male playmates and make them impotent. Long-term genocide. Revenge was swift. A new virus hit the West. Infected men did not become impotent, quite the opposite, but worse still, any daughter born to them, no matter how cute, turned into a doll at puberty. Not a cute doll, a deadly doll. I'm thinking like Chucky. DNA recombined to adopt the structures of polymer and steel. Quantum magical allure straight from the space-time foam at the heart of her matrix. So that sounds a bit out there. Nano-engineers that unleash machine unconsciousness. Revenge does not account for it. Something infinitely more sinister is happening. Only Primavera and her wild teenage lover Ignatz, who tells this story, know what power is really behind the microbiotic army dedicated to overthrowing the humans. Can they reach Dr. Toxicophilus before the CIA or the porno crack keto or their combined assassins and nanomachines reach them? So that sounds a bit nuts. Next book I was very pleased to get. It's a little bit faded on the spine, but, you know, will survive. Is Aristoi by Walter John Williams, who's an author that people often tell me is very underrated and doesn't get any much airtime at all these days, but is really well worth reading. And there's a couple other books by him that I'd like to get as well. But Aristoi, anyway. So this is a US first edition. In the far distant future, humanity has created a glittering interstellar empire where need and sickness are unknown. Happy days. All is made possible by advanced tech, bioengineering and nanomachines, virtual reality, and the harnessing of the force of gravity. But not everyone can handle all this high tech. Not every person is capable of mastering the arts of programming on the fly, etc., etc., etc. So a special kind of human has evolved. Men and women who can handle both the virtual world and the realised world, who can do two and more things at once, who are smarter and more creative than average, a bit like me really. They are the Aristoi, the best, as in Plato's vision, and they have the care of the demos, the people, foremost in their minds, etc., etc. So it sounds like quite a richly imagined world. Next, we got Ammonite by Nicola Griffiths, and I think there is a hardback of this, but I couldn't track one down, so I ended up with a paperback, I think. So this is about a xenobiologist and linguist must return to the company she fears if she's to use her skills for the last time to solve a biological puzzle on the planet Jeep, a mystery with deadly and far-reaching implications. Then we got Mary Rosenblum's Chimera, which definitely didn't have a hardback issue. Born a privileged corporate scion, David Chen has severed his ties to the strict Chinese family to become a virtual reality artist in the net, and he was one of the best. So again, sounds like a little bit cyberpunky. It's kind of stuff going on in the net. Maybe an element of China Mountain Zhang to it. I don't know. Next, from 1994, is Michael Moorcock's Blood, and this is it's described as a southern fantasy. Yeah, the physical world breaks down into patches of colour, patches of chaos and patches of nothing at all as the pull of the fault, I don't know what the fault is, a rift in the space-time continuum, I expect. Anyway, the pull of the fault expands and the code on which the Jagaderos base their lives is eroded, etc., etc. So I think there are books that follow this. This is the first of a little series, maybe a trilogy, I think. Next, we got John Barnes, sort of hard SF author from the US, who I'm yet to read anything by. I've got a few of his books now, actually, again, as a result of finding out about him on this list. So Mother of Storms is a sort of extreme climate change thing, I think. So it's like mega hurricanes kind of glomming together to create, the mother of all storms. All their energy comes from the surface of the ocean. The warmer the water, the bigger the storm. And if the percentage of area of warm water grows, it becomes a racetrack, breeding hurricanes that can wipe out whole countries and millions of lives. Yeah, so this is a tale of ignored warnings and the subsequent consequences of that. It's a kind of disaster tale, I think. And I'm up for a disaster tale. Who doesn't like a disaster? Next, from 1995, is Richard Powers' Galatea 2.0, which I only acquired recently. Let's see. Yeah, so this I only featured in a book haul recently, so I won't dwell on it for too long, but it's got parallels to today's kind of AI controversies. Powers becomes involved in an outlandish and irresistible project to train a neural net on a canonical list of great works until the machine becomes capable of passing a comprehensive exam in English literature. In this rather nice paperback edition. Next is 1995's The Diamond Age by Neil Stevenson. Of course, I didn't try too hard to secure a nice edition of this. It must have been quite hard to find one for a reasonable price, I think. So I've plumped for just a reading copy. It's pretty beaten up. Paperback edition. I think probably will find it's the UK first edition in paperback, but it isn't in very nice condition. This is quite the combination here. Far above the diamondoid bedrock of New Chuzan, a powerful class of neo-Victorians is ruling 21st century Atlantis/Shanghai. John Percival Hackworth, a brilliant nanotechnologist, has created an illicit magical book for the education of a young lady, an interactive device crammed with folklore, science, and the martial arts that teaches young women how to think for herself. What will happen to society if it should fall into the hands of someone like Little Nell, a poor orphan girl with so much to learn? So this is like a kind of, almost sounds like a cyberpunk kind of Dickensian affair, which I'm now intrigued to read. Next is The Transmigration of Souls by William Barton, another recent acquisition. this is maybe a little bit on the nose. A century ago, Fortress America recalled all citizens, expelled all foreigners, closed its borders, severed all communication, and shot down every person, plane or satellite that strayed near. Now Fortress America is a great power hiding in fear of an alien artifact discovered on Luna, an artifact linked to anywhere, but not anywhere in space or time. The gate leads to an if-time and not space, an inner space, a cyberspace, infinite realities beyond realities of ruins left 1 billion years ago, and prowled by an angel of death, the space-time juggernaut of all things. So that's but a small band of Chinese and Arab astronauts pursued by immortal body-morphing American soldiers is about to enter the gate. So that sounds like a fascinating premise from a world-building point of view, and then interesting things are happening. Right, we probably need to step this up a bit, or we'll be here all year. Night Lamp by Jack Vance, of course, the first, well, not the first, one of the Guin Reach books, and I think it can be read fairly standalone. In the UK trade paperback. Then from 1997, Cage Barker's In the Garden of Idan, which is a sort of time travel-ish kind of story, I think. Yeah, female protagonist. It's 1554 and England is in turmoil. Mary Tudor is queen, Philip II of Spain is her much-loved king, and her subjects, profoundly divided by religion, are sullen and afraid. To this volatile nation comes a party of Spanish gentlefolk who've journeyed from Spain to inspect the Kentish garden of Sir Walter Iden, botanist and collector of curiosities, and amongst them is a chaste, demure 17-year-old, Donna Rosa. And her real name, as far as she has one, is Mendoza. Rescued as a child from the Spanish Inquisition's dungeon, she's been adopted by a 24th century corporation which has unlocked the secrets of time travel and is using them to plunder the past for profit, etc., etc. It's quite a long blurb, I won't read to you. So that's intriguing. And then we've got, from 1997 as well, is Elizabeth Hand's Glimmering, which I couldn't find a hardback copy of for whatever reason. It's 1999, the last days, say some, the first, claim others. The climate is clearly warming. The evening skies are awash in dreamy multicoloured lights, and underground cults are preparing for a frenzy of all frenzies, the night of 1,000 years. So this is a kind of millennial type thing written just before the turn of the century. Then we've got Jonathan Letham's As She Climbed Across the Table, which asks the question, what if your lover left you for, well, nothing? Literally nothing. So as a professor, the principal object of his attention is another particle physicist, Alice Coombs, who stands with her colleagues on the cusp of a momentous discovery. They have created a void, a hole in the universe, a true nothingness that they have named lack. Lack, however, is no ordinary black hole, but a void that displays the contours of a personality. A void that, as Philip begins to realise, utterly obsesses his beloved. In other words, Alice has fallen out of love with him and into love with lack. Then we got The Golden Globe by John Varley, which is from, 1998. So this follows a group of itinerant thespians as they make their way from planet to planet as part of a motley theatre troupe, bringing Shakespeare or a version of it to the outer reaches of Earth's solar systems. And Sparky, who's one of the crew, can transform himself into anything from young to old, fat to thin, even male to female, by altering magnetic implants beneath his skin. Indispensable hardware for a career actor and an interstellar conman wanted for murder. Next, we got 1999, Simon Ing's Headlong, which is a sort of cyberpunk affair, I think. Another book that I'm super keen to read, mainly because of the awesome cover art, is George Zabrowski's Cave of Stars, which I think is actually a sequel to Macro Life, or at least it's set in the same world. So in this way, old Earth is gone, it's destroyed, the remnants of humanity live scattered amongst the stars. Some abandon the dying planet in starship arcs bound for new worlds, and others, nano-engineered for near immortality, live in macro-life mobiles, 100-kilometre long space habitats that explore interstellar space. Meant to be very good. Then we've got Poul Anderson, Genesis, one of his later books towards the end of his career. Astronaut Christian Brannock has lived to see artificial intelligence develop to a point where a human personality can be uploaded into a computer, achieving a sort of hybrid immortality. He welcomes that because the tech will make it possible for him to achieve his dream and explore the stars. 1 billion years later, Brannock is dispatched to Earth to check on some strange anomalies. Then we've got a stone-cold science fiction classic, arguably Michael Faber's Under the Skin from the year 2000, which is in this rather nice Canongate edition with a translucent, almost opaque cover on the paperback, and then the real cover is underneath, Under the Skin. See what they did there? And this is the sort of story of this macabre, beautifully written, totally entertaining, and ultimately deeply affecting. Next, we got Jamil Nasir's Distance Haze, which was only available in the mass market paperback, I think. This is a sort of cyberpunky thing with scientists kind of buried in a secret institute on sacred Native American ground in southwest Michigan. Another one that I might have covered last time is Carl Schroeder's Ventus, which is a space opera. Then we've got Brian Stableford's The Cassandra Complex, which is one of several, I think it's 5 or 6 books. Yeah, the Immortality series, which I think I'm right in saying it. So he co-wrote a book which was sort of a future history of the third millennium, which I borrowed and borrowed and borrowed again from the library when I was a kid, which I thought was just fascinating. And he's written, as I understand it, these 5 or 6 books which are set in that future history and various aspects of it at various times across the millennium. And this one is the Cassandra Complex, which is of enormous scope and filled with wonders, apparently. Set in the same future history as Inherit the Earth and the other books, blah, blah, blah. So the Cassandra Complex is like the foundation myth, if you like, the independent story of events crucial to the creation of the universe in which the others take place. It's the 21st century in a world of rapid change and biotech threats and promises. World War III, the biotech war, is on the horizon, and the world as we know it is going to end. The fateful question is, who's going to choose the kind of future that will follow, and who gets to live in this new world to come? And they're variable, apparently, those books. I'm not sure whether the Cassandra Complex is one of the good ones or not. And there's a book I'm super keen to read, is 2002's The Golden Age by John C. Wright. He's subsequently been a naughty boy, I think. But anyway, he's written a trilogy that goes with this. I've managed to get hold of book 2 as well, and book 3 is on its way to me slowly from across the Atlantic. But this is as the name suggests, a kind of golden age space opera in style, I think. A grand space opera, a large-scale SF adventure novel in the tradition of A. Van Vogt and Roger Zelazny, with perhaps a bit of Cordwainer Smith enriching. Next, we got a book which is also on my TBR pile for this month, The Labyrinth Key by Howard Hendricks. And this is the race to develop a quantum computer, sort of US versus China. Sounds a little bit like Colossus, actually, the D.F. Jones book. The government that achieves this goal will win a crucial prize. No other computer system will be safe from the reach of this master machine. Nothing bad will come of this, of course. Then we got an alternate history, The Plot Against America, and in this book by Philip Roth, Charles Lindbergh, who's a bit of an America First guy, pre-World War II, ends up being a president. FDR loses an election, and World War II goes very differently as a result. And once president, he's sort of negotiated a cordial understanding with Adolf Hitler, whose conquest of Europe and whose virulent anti-Semitic policies he appears to accept without difficulty. And then you've got the story of a particular Jewish family and the trials and tribulations that they go through as they try to prove themselves to be loyal Americans whilst also being Jewish. Next, from 2005, is Ian R. MacLeod's House of Storms, which is actually the sequel to another book called The Light Ages. Quite why they chose to feature this one and not The Light Ages, I don't know. Yeah, so set amongst the familiar hills and cities of an England that is strangely recognisable yet utterly new and suffused with the power of magic. The House of Storms explores all the beauty and horror of the universe, which readers of his previous novel, The Light Ages, will recognise, but takes it to a yet more astonishing level. Then we've got, from 2005, David Marisek's Counting Heads, again in the first edition from the US, set in 2134, the living is easy. The information age has given rise to the boutique economy, in which mass production and mass consumption are rendered obsolete. Then we've got Jeff Ryman's Air, and this is sort of like a pervasive wireless called Air, a new communications technology which brings the benefits of the internet to everyone, everywhere in the world, whether they want it or not. Air is coming and nothing can stop it. May be illiterate, but she knows this. Air will change everything. Her village must adapt or die, and will her people listen before it's too late? Then from 2005, Robert Charles Wilson's Spin, which is a book I really must read. I've got it in this sort of quite tatty paperback for now. I would like to get it in hardback at some point, but I'm not in a mad rush to do so. Then quite a different book from 2006, Liz Jensen's My Dirty Little Book of Stolen Time, which features a tart with a heart, a former prostitute who ends up being the cleaner to a disagreeable mistress. As it says here, Charlotte supports herself and her sidekick by working as a prostitute in the kind of turn of the century Copenhagen, but the course of harlotry never runs smooth, and Charlotte's life is altered irrevocably when, one hard winter, she stumbles on an exciting new source of income. So she ends up being a bit of an amateur sleuth, but from what I can understand from the blurb. I don't know if this one truly qualifies as science fiction. It feels more fantasy to me, but this is from 2006, Naomi Novik's Temeraire, which is the first of a bunch of books with this setting, as the cover art suggests. We're sort of in the Napoleonic Wars, the British Navy against the French Navy, only there are dragons. Next we got Harm by Brian Aldiss, and this is this sort of post 9/11 book, I think. Yeah, Paul Ali, a young SF writer of Muslim descent, has written a satirical novel in which two characters joke about the assassination of the Prime Minister. Arrested by agents of Harm, the Hostile Activities Research Ministry, for no compelling reason, Paul is incarcerated as prisoner B, held incommunicado and brutally interrogated by jailers to whom his Muslim heritage is itself a crime, meriting the harshest punishment. Then we got Carol M. Schwiller, The Secret City, which is a proud enclave carved in stone. Hidden high in a mountain range, it's a worn citadel protecting a lost culture. And this secret city harbours a handful of aliens stranded on Earth, waiting for rescue and running out of time. Over years of increasing poverty, an exodus to the human world has become their only chance of survival. The aliens are gradually assimilating, not as a discrete culture, but rather as a source of cheap labour. Then we got Kathleen Ann Guinan's In War Times, which is another book that I've only recently acquired. And this one is set, I think, in the Second World War and immediately after. Sam Dance is a young enlisted soldier in 1941, blah, 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 blah. During his training, Sam shows that he has a knack for science and engineering, so he's plucked by his superiors from the daily grunt work to study subjects such as code breaking, electronics and physics, a science that is growing ever more important to the war effort. And then there's a device that might end the war. Then we got from 2007, Rudy Rucker's Post Singular, which is a cyberpunk thing, I think. And then from 2008, Ekaterina Sedier's The Alchemy of Stone. Mattie, an intelligent automaton skilled in the use of alchemy, finds herself caught in the middle of a conflict between the gargoyles, the mechanics, and the alchemists. With the old order quickly giving way to the new, Mattie discovers powerful and dangerous secrets, of course she does. Secrets that completely alter the balance of power in the city of Iona. This doesn't sit well with the Lahari, the mechanic who created Mattie and still has the key to her heart. Literally. Then we've got 2009's Steal Across the Sky by Nancy Kress, which I can't tell you much about because it's in a bag and it's sealed, so I can't get to the blurb. But a book that I'm super keen to read. And then last of the books that I've recently acquired on this list is Zoo City by Lauren Bucas. I'm reliably informed that it's pronounced Bucas. Zinzi has a sloth on her back, a dirty 419 scam habit, and a talent for finding lost things. But when a little old lady turns up dead and the cops confiscate her last paycheck, she's forced to take on her least favourite kind of jobs, missing persons. So it's like a private detective kind of thing. So that's everything that I've managed to find on that list. Like I said, I've just noticed on the pile of books that I haven't yet hauled, there's a couple more that are also on this list, so those will come in the next book haul. And then there's 3 or 4 maybe that are on their way to me across the Atlantic in various ways. But I have almost now acquired everything, and now I've read approaching 30 of the 101, so I've still got a long way to go on my kind of odyssey reading through what Broderick and De Filipo certainly believe are 101 of the best novels of the 25-year period that book covers. I hope that you found that interesting. I'll put the list of all 101 books in the description for this video, and you can find links to the other 2 videos on this topic, the original one that I did back in October last year, and then the quick review of the 10 or so that I've read since then, and then this one, obviously, which is effectively a compilation haul video. As usual, thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye for now.